Oh, hey there, welcome to Castle Legends. Just thought I'd show you guys this build here. Um, this is how the car looked when I originally assembled it, and I painted it all black and this brown color. In this particular build, I thought, I kind of show you guys a little bit of the detailing that I had done on it. A lot of it's just experimentation. There's probably some things I do in this video that I probably didn't need to do. But it's kind of just show you guys what's some things that you can work on while you're painting the model. So anyways, let's just get started. I wanted to try to keep the windows. I had dry brushed them metal, so I thought I'd mask off some areas in the tires, and also the gun that I had already painted. I didn't really want to go ahead and repaint it, so masked everything up, and then I took it into the garage and I used the salt method on it, so some of that footage I just didn't take, but just kind of wanted to skip ahead and show you guys what it looks like after you take off all the tape. As you can see, it's it's got a little bit of a fade on the sides. I didn't really go too too thick with the paint. The mistake I made is I ended up just using some like actual water just dripping on it. I know one of the models I made before it worked out pretty good, but next time I'm just going to use just wet your fingers and just dab the just make it sticky, make it moist on the surface, and then just put the salt on, so just makes it a little better when you clean it off. This one a lot of the paint comes off, and I mean it turns out pretty good, but I kind of wanted it a bit different, but I was still happy with the results. So anyways, I'm just gonna clean all this stuff off with a brush, and you can do a thorough job of removing all the salt. I use like sea salt for this, so you could probably use like regular table salt. I think I had done before. I kind of mixed it with another model I had done. So once I get an airbrush, I'm going to try some different techniques, but for now this is good enough. Okay, so I discovered I didn't take out one of the pieces of masking tape, so this is just me removing that piece and just seeing what I've got left, and scrape off a few last remaining bits of the salt. But as you can see, you can if you have a base color, you can see what kind of shows through underneath. So now that I got the car all ready to go, I'm going to start detailing the car with paints, and just get some of the good old chaos block from Games Workshop, and just start painting the I guess the skirt on the bottom. So I did for this particular car, there's front bumper or front skirt, side skirts in the back as well, so I just basically take some paint and do all the detailing all the way around. Okay, so just start getting all the coverage around the sides, and then go to the other side, start working on that, and kind of get it as even coverage as you can. I probably should have used a thinner brush, but anyways, I just used this brush. I had a funky angle on it, so I thought I'd be okay with it, and if I mess up, then I can always go back and fix it. Not a big deal. But this is me also now painting the wire, and then also now getting the back area done. So I want to paint these metal. This is the exhaust. So with the from the engine, it's going out to the back. So I'm just doing like a base coat of black on those, making it look will make it look pretty good once it's all finished. I painted it silver. I keep using paint markers throughout the video, and I've decided that that's some kind of a detail you could put at the end instead of trying to skip ahead and use them as a paint method. I mean, you can do that. I mean, it actually looks pretty good. I do like it. But with this model, it's actually pretty layered. So as you can see, I took the paint marker and went everywhere with it. So if you don't really want a rusted metal look, you want a fresh, like a freshly damaged look, you can use the paint marker. But the problem with it's just a little too bright. So I would recommend using one of the sort of like the darker Games Workshop type of paints that you can typically use on an engine. Okay, so I got a lot of the silver paint apps on the car. Now it's time to just try to add some other colors to this. I know I added some armor pieces before, so I always think that the armor pieces come from another vehicle, or you can make them, just make them like a different color. I didn't really like how I did this at first, so at the end you'll see how this door looks. But I thought at first I'll paint it blue and have some chipping on it and make it look a little rusty. But this is what I did with it while I was doing it in the video. I just picked some blue acrylic that I had. And then I just grabbed in our collection, I grabbed some like another light blue greeny kind of color. Ended up using too much, and this is me actually just trying to put a little bit more back into the bottle, just kind of squeeze it so it suck the air back, suck the paint back inside. Just kind of giving a contrast to the green color. One thing about the lighter colors, once you start making them look a little rusty and you use some of the like the wash paints on them, it does actually have a pretty neat effect on those. That's why I like using some of the bright colors. Okay, so I'm just going to start using the same paint for the top of the vehicle. This is me just using a small brush and putting it in between I guess the armor that I put on the roof. I actually layered it with two pieces. There was a stock, like a piece of cardstock that I used, and then I'm pretty sure I cut up some paper strips, like long strips, and made them look like bands. So I glued those to the top of the roof, like out on top of the on the cardstock that I put on there. So it just kind of gave it this like layered, armor look. And I quite liked it. Might have painted it a different way than I originally had, but here's me using some of the more darker armor color. And this is me thinking now that the the paint marker that I would use was I think it was a little too bright, so I was going to just, start going around kind of filling in some of the spots again with like this darker color. So in the end, it ends up just being more of like a layered look, but I'm thinking about using the wash at this stage, so putting on some of this paint. Apparently when you put this wash on, I was actually using the wrong wash. There was a red one that I have that looks, actually no, it is the right one. It's called Agret's Earthshade. So it's basically a wash that once you put it on the metal, it looks really kind of rusty by itself. But yeah, just kind of going over it with some of the Games Workshop. This sort of like a darker shade of metal. And again, I didn't really like the blue color, so it's kind of like going over top of it a bit to make it look a little more subtle. Okay, this is me just doing a little bit of dry brush touch-ups with the same darker silver or darker metal color I was using. I started to kind of wreck the detail on the mesh, so I kind of wanted to go over it again and make sure it was still looking pretty good. One thing for sure, clean up after yourself. That was me just discovering I had the light blue paint all over the back, and I had to basically fix that. So this is some of the Tamiya copper color. I actually picked it up for my my war rig project, but I thought, since I have so much of that paint, I'm going to start using it in some of the other cars. So I'm going to use it for the Flamethrower. So the Flamethrower itself, should actually mention it. It's basically one of the Warhammer 40k flamethrowers, but to mount it on here, I actually move the canisters to the side. So you just basically cut it and glue it to the side as opposed to the bottom. Like the way it comes, it's actually just dangling on the bottom. So I actually cut it and I just moved it over to the right side, as you can see. And then I think I trimmed the bottom of the gun or the flamethrower a little bit, so it actually lines up nicely with the hood. Okay, so now I'm going to start. Now I got the whole thing sort of painted, I got a lot of details on it. It's time to take a wash. Now, I made a mistake with this. I mean, it turns out fine, but again, what I should have done was kind of watered it down a bit. But so you can see, it's really dark, and to rescue it, I ended up just wiping it off. So I painted the whole thing with the wash. And then I just wipe it down just to kind of bring back some of the green. So now, as you can see, this is how it kind of turns out. And you can see like some of the wash getting into the grooves, and it looks pretty good. Yeah, so I'm pretty pleased with how that turns out. As you can see now on the right side of the car, this is the cable that I had cut. It's actually just a piece of standard wire, and I use that as the hose. So this is my experiment. I picked up some makeup from the dollar store, and I just wanted to see how how they could do with the how using these could be you know, good for weathering instead. I know that there's these like weathering kits that you can buy. They're, you know, $12 and up, but you know, with these things being, I think they were, yeah, I think they were actually a $1.25 each. So I thought, you know, I'm gonna try to use it on a car and see what happens. So you get all kinds of shades. There was actually 3 or 4 different varieties of these. They even had like some that had purple. You know, I mean, you know, if you're gonna buy some makeup, I guess, you know, you need to have somebody kind of with you to kind of help you out. But I kind of wanted to get the swab, and I like the fact that there was a lot of like earthy kind of colors in it. So you know, I was thinking instead of using the dry pastel that I had, I thought, oh, let's try this and see how it looks. So I picked this like browny kind of color and started just rubbing all over the place. Sorry for the off-camera views, but as you can see, it starts to kind of shade things in a bit. So it's pretty, you know, has a pretty interesting effect. I mean, it might not be the right stuff to use for this particular model, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. So, you know, you just basically get the makeup and just this like swab thing. I just ended up just rubbing it into the hood and just kind of smearing it around. So it still shows the details underneath, but it kind of starts to smooth things out. I kind of wanted like a little bit of like a dirty look to it, but not completely dirty, and also not completely rusty like some of the other cars that I've done. So, and this one here, I'm actually using the dark blacks. I thought, you know, the gun being, or sorry, the flamethrower having some soot on the side, I thought using that dark shade would look really cool. So I was going to use black pastel, but this actually is a good idea for that. So if you're going to do any kind of like flaming, you know, another flamethrower on another model, I would, you know, you could try just using you know, some of this stuff on it, just with like a little soot in various areas. But I would also recommend you buying your own, and don't borrow someone else's makeup kit to do this, because otherwise you're going to have somebody unhappy. Find something like this. This stuff is like really cheap, being like $1.25, so you're not really using any kind of, you know, high-end makeup. Okay, so I just keep going over the vehicle, you know, with some different colors, and you know, just kind of dirtying it up with this stuff. And I just wanted to see how it would look instead of using like dry pastels on it. Yeah, I mean, I quite liked it. So to try to make it a little bit more dirty, I kind of want to still figure out how to make it get an effect to put like just dust on the car, not necessarily like rust or anything like that. Just making it dirty. So at first I thought I'll mix it and I'll use a little bit of this like makeup swab and see if that does anything. But as you can see, it as I start doing it, it doesn't really stay. So what I ended up doing was just kind of giving up on that idea. And the best way to do this is you get the dry pastel and then you get some alcohol and you just kind of mix a little bit into a little bowl or something, as I'm doing here, and then that helps to dissolve the powder, and then it makes it sort of like a paste. And you just use like a regular paintbrush and more or less paint it on. And then what will happen is it will dry, make it, and it'll look like, kind of dusty, kind of dirty. So I'm just going to put it all around the bottom, the sides, wherever I think that would look, it should be dusty. Sorry for the off-camera shot there. Okay, so I just continue to brush it and just adding some additional details here and there. And yeah, like here's the end result of the car. What I ended up not showing you was I did mix a bit of green paint, because originally I sprayed it with a different, with a spray can spray paint that I had, but I found that I kind of wanted to enhance some of the green, and so after I had weathered everything down, I kind of wanted to go back and get some of the green to stand out again. So I did actually touch it up and did a dry brush in some areas, so you can see like the mirrors are now they're a little bit more green on both sides. One didn't actually have any paint on it when I first took all the mask off, so I actually gone ahead and painted it, and it shows all the detail. And then what I ended up doing was going over the windows again, making sure they stood out, and then some of the effects that I had done with the makeup and everything. It with covering it over with green again, kind of made it a little bit more subtle and more just still dirty and gungy, but not one way or another. It's really like got this layered look. And then yeah, with the mesh and everything, I did a dry brush on them again with the metal. I was trying to use the paint marker on it, but I didn't really like it as much. So using the dry brush is it's a lot easier. And then the tail, just went over with the paint again. And yeah, I mean, I think it turns out pretty good. I mean, it's got it's pretty green. It's not overly rusty. It's supposed to look like a performance car. Now I just did the undercarriage in that shot there, and yeah, I just wanted to make it look the part. As you can see from the side view there, yeah, how the flamethrower sits right on the hood, it kind of matches the angle. So, but yeah, no, hopefully you guys like this build, and we're gonna try to do a few more in the future. So if you have any suggestions, just let me know. Thank you for stopping by.